Hello everyone. So we have received a question on a Source Eternal post. The post it goes like this. It is difficult to walk on the true path without losing one's excess burden. And on this there is a comment which has come in which says that walking is itself a path. True or false, right, wrong are only concepts. Wanting to remove excess burden is itself a burden, and it is actually a very thoughtful comment, and it looks good when it comes from someone who is enlightened, someone who has really surpassed those burdens, someone who is living very joyfully and is able to see their bondages or has already worked on their bondages to an extent that they do not become heavy on them anymore. Someone who is living in such a way, who has transcended their burdens, becomes a fragrant person. A flowering has happened, and in their very flowering they are able to spread this fragrance everywhere, and it is very justified then to have such an approach or say such a declaration of independence. Now, when this question is completely questioning the concept of there being a right or a wrong, or there being the concept of a burden in someone's life, it is actually hitting at our very own intellect. Now, how can we forget that we have an intellect? It is often said that someone who wants to control you will first make you forego your belief on your own faculties, on your own five senses. And that is something which is often used as a ploy for you to become a slave or to lose control of your own self, to surrender in an premature or unscientific kind of a way. And that is what I would like to caution the questioner over here towards. They say that कहाँ पहुँचना है, कुछ बदलने वाला थोड़ी है, जस का तस रहने वाला है. Now, this statement rather sounds a declaration of not wanting to change more than it sounds like a declaration of freedom. It is a different thing that you have reached that saturi, that simplicity, that holistic living, that wholesomeness in your life, that you are able to do whatever you do fully. You are, when you are eating, you are just eating. When you are reading, you are just reading. When you are washing the clothes, you are just washing the clothes. When you are sleeping, you don't have any dreams. That is a hypothetical situation which I do not know if the questioner over here is able to experience. But questioning this process, this looking out for this stagnation as the growth in itself, is something which is limiting in my view. Why does one have to question their burden? Why does one have to see if the path is right or wrong? It is true that it is often said in spirituality that there is nothing such as right or wrong, but rather it is just something that your level of consciousness is deciding. Is your action coming out of your consciousness being applied onto it? Is there a torch which is lighting the path ahead of you? Or is your path something which has been predetermined, or you are walking blindly on it? That is the question for you. Are you questioning where you are headed? And if you are putting a kind of a light to see your actions, you are able to see some kind of an unsatisfaction in your works. You are able to see a kind of frustration in your day-to-day life. If you are having a pain and more than a pain, it is turning into a suffering. You need to question whether this very state of being is one of freedom, which tells you not to walk anymore or that you don't have to reach anywhere, or is it something which is telling you to put a light onto what you are doing. Maybe you are carrying a load onto you which you have considered by virtue of being a member of the society, by the inputs put in through your parents or your partner, or it is just considered as an ordained way of life for everyone. Have you really considered from the perspective of you being a unique individual that whether the things I am doing, are they really serving me, or am I serving the system of the things moving ahead in an unscientific way, in a way which is not really helping you? It is no different an existence of that of being a slave or living within the herd of sheep. I wouldn't consider the acts which are coming so unconsciously as anything separate from that. We see that we, in the name of freedom, we, in the name of spirituality, are often led on to concepts which are more restrictive, or they are an ego statement. Because many statements which have come from the masters, from the enlightened beings, they are being misrepresented or being told as one of our own nature. When you look at the larger sense, maybe it is true. But how do you, right now, from where you are, make such a statement? Doesn't it show your shallowness? Doesn't it show a superficiality or a lack of wanting to look at your own acts? Why are you afraid of seeing or acknowledging your current scenario? Why do you want to rush onto the pedestal, the highest of the highest zeniths? Why do you want to rush to the horizon? Does this journey not ordain you to walk over there or to swim towards the horizon at least? Why do you call yourself as Aham Brahmasmi when you see that right now the limitations that you have are very real? You are chained, and this great declaration of you saying that I am Brahmasmi is nothing but a way of sedation. It is putting you to sleep. You are not going to do anything because of that. And that is the biggest injustice that one can do against themselves. And that's why a person who is able to see their limiting concepts, a person who is honest with themselves, a person who acknowledges their weaknesses is considered to be a real seeker. There is no more a real seeker, even though they might be depressed at themselves, looking at their current precarious scenario. There is not a real seeker who does not find themselves in the pits. Just as Sisyphus, who has the great mechanism, or he is stuck in a situation, who has to keep on carrying the rock towards the hill, the slope, and this is a continuous peril that he has. Yet Camus says that one must consider Sisyphus as happy because he is a seeker. He sees his predicament and he is ready to work towards it endlessly. That is the real seeker, who he is and his predicament. And we must question this. We must see, because when we acknowledge this, we are able to see what has been holding us down. To carry the boulder onto the hill is not easy, but it is done progressively by letting go of one's weaknesses. Those weaknesses could be ranging from anything from the concepts, the ill concepts which the questionnaire is trying to address over here in albeit a bit of a wrong way. There could be many ill concepts which has to be abandoned by the seeker, or there could be burdens in terms of relationships, in terms of dharanai principles, in terms of anything and everything that is not letting you do the task at hand, which is been illuminated by your light of your own consciousness. Why do we not take this seriously? Why are we not humble to accept that there is a task at hand? Yes, spiritually speaking, in the wholesomeness of the universe, you can certainly say that there is no good or bad. But for you, where you are, where you stand, there is certainly something which is good and certainly something which is bad. Because right now, if life demands you to do a certain thing, or you see that you have a fear, and it is said that where your fear is, your work lies. And if you see that there is a fear and you are running away from it instead of looking at it, instead of observing your patterns, instead of looking at your cyclical whales which are keeping you restricted, which are not letting you grow, which are not letting you rid of the concepts which you talked about, that means that you are not playing, or you are not going by the very rules that you put in. You are not walking consciously. You are not living up to your own standards. That is what is meant by good or bad. It is not about a concept, a predetermined thing that what is good for this should be good for everyone. What is bad for him should be bad for everyone. No. You have to realize, you have to ask, and then you will realize what is good for you, what is bad for you. And in this lies your salvation. Hope that clears this and answers it to a good extent too. Thank you.